Imagine walking into a store and seeing a simple sign that says, "Only two left." Suddenly, the item that looked ordinary a few seconds ago now feels incredibly valuable. Your brain starts racing. What if someone else buys it first? What if you miss the chance? And before you even realize what's happening, you're already reaching for it. The truth is, the product didn't change, but your perception did. This is one of the most powerful psychological triggers in human behavior, and it quietly influences millions of decisions every single day. It's called the scarcity principle, and when used the right way, it can make people want something more, trust it more, and move faster to get it. Today, we're exploring a fascinating psychological force that marketers, negotiators, and persuasive people have understood for decades: the scarcity principle. A simple idea with a surprisingly powerful effect on the human mind. At its core, the scarcity principle is very simple. People tend to value things more when they believe those things are limited or difficult to obtain. When something feels rare, our brain automatically assumes it must be important or valuable. You've probably experienced this many times without noticing. Limited time sales, exclusive memberships, countdown timers, only a few spots left, or last chance today. These phrases are everywhere, and they all trigger the same psychological response. But why does this happen? To understand that, we need to look at how the human brain evolved. For most of human history, resources were limited. Food, shelter, safety, and opportunities were not guaranteed. When something valuable appeared, people had to act quickly before it disappeared. Our brains developed a survival instinct around scarcity. When something is limited, it signals urgency. Waiting could mean losing the opportunity forever. Even though modern life is very different, that ancient survival mechanism still lives inside our minds. When we see something rare, exclusive, or disappearing soon, our brain reacts automatically. It pushes us to act faster and think less. This is why scarcity is one of the most powerful persuasion tools in psychology. Think about concert tickets. When tickets first go on sale, people feel excited. But when the message changes to almost sold out, the excitement suddenly turns into urgency. People who were unsure before now rush to buy. The same thing happens with online shopping. A product might sit unnoticed for days, but the moment a small message appears saying, "Only 3 left in stock," interest suddenly increases. Scarcity doesn't just increase desire, it also increases perceived value. In psychology, there's a fascinating pattern. When something becomes less available, people assume it must be better. For example, imagine 2 jars of cookies. One jar contains 10 cookies. The other jar contains only 2 cookies. Even if the cookies are identical, people often believe the jar with fewer cookies contains the better ones. Scarcity creates a sense of importance, but the influence goes even deeper than that. Scarcity doesn't only affect how much we want something, it affects how fast we make decisions. When something feels limited, our brain switches from careful thinking to fast action. Instead of analyzing all the details, we focus on one simple thought: don't miss out. Psychologists sometimes call this loss aversion. Humans feel the pain of losing an opportunity more strongly than the pleasure of gaining something new. In other words, missing out feels worse than waiting. And this is exactly why scarcity is so persuasive. Now, when people hear the phrase dark persuasion, it can sound dramatic. But in reality, persuasion tools themselves are neutral. They can be used ethically or manipulatively depending on intention. Understanding scarcity doesn't mean using it to deceive people. In fact, learning about this principle can also help you recognize when someone else is trying to influence you. But when used honestly, scarcity can be a powerful way to communicate value. For example, imagine you're offering a service or opportunity. If you genuinely have limited time or limited availability, communicating that clearly helps people make decisions faster. Instead of saying, "let me know whenever," you might say, I have 3 spots available this month. That's not manipulation. It's simply explaining reality. Scarcity can also create focus. When options feel unlimited, people often procrastinate. They delay decisions because they assume the opportunity will always be there. But when there is a clear limit, people become more decisive. This is why deadlines work so well. Students finish assignments right before the due date. Projects get completed as the deadline approaches. Without limits, motivation often disappears. Scarcity creates momentum. There's also something interesting that happens socially when scarcity appears. When people believe something is rare, they assume others must want it too. And when others want something, our interest increases. This effect is connected to something psychologists call social proof. If many people are competing for something limited, the brain assumes that thing must be valuable. This is why phrases like waiting list, exclusive access, or members only feel powerful. They create the feeling that you are entering something special that not everyone can access. But here's an important detail many people miss. Scarcity works best when it feels believable. If every product claims to be limited, people eventually stop trusting the message. But when scarcity is real and rare, the psychological impact becomes much stronger. Think about luxury brands. They often produce fewer items intentionally. By keeping availability low, they increase the perception of exclusivity. The product becomes more than an object. It becomes a symbol of rarity. But scarcity doesn't only apply to products or sales. It can also affect personal influence. In social situations, people who appear busy or selective often seem more desirable. When someone's time feels valuable and limited, others naturally respect it more. On the other hand, when someone appears constantly available, their attention may feel less valuable. This doesn't mean pretending to be unavailable. It simply means understanding that boundaries can increase respect. Time is one of the most powerful forms of scarcity. Everyone has only 24 hours in a day. When someone uses their time carefully, it signals that their attention is meaningful. This is why confident people often say no more easily. Their time has limits. And interestingly, those limits often increase their influence rather than reduce it. But there is also a darker side to scarcity persuasion. Some people create fake scarcity to pressure others into rushed decisions. You may have seen countdown timers that reset every time you reload a page, or offers that claim last chance every single day. These tactics rely on urgency rather than honesty. And when people recognize this manipulation, trust disappears. That's why the most powerful persuasion is built on authenticity. Real scarcity is simply a reflection of reality. Limited time, limited energy, limited resources, limited opportunities. When those limits are communicated clearly, people naturally respond. The key idea is not to force someone into a decision. The goal is simply to help them understand that opportunities do not last forever. Because in truth, many things in life really are limited. Moments, chances, time, and attention. Understanding the scarcity principle changes the way you see everyday decisions. Suddenly, you notice how often urgency appears in advertising, business, and social influence. But more importantly, you begin to understand your own reactions. The next time you feel sudden pressure to act quickly, you can pause and ask a simple question. Is this true scarcity, or is someone trying to create urgency? That small moment of awareness gives you control. At the same time, if you ever need to communicate value, motivate action, or encourage decisions, understanding scarcity can help you do it more effectively and more honestly. Because persuasion is not always about convincing people with complex arguments. Sometimes it's simply about understanding how the human mind naturally responds to opportunity. And once you see these patterns, you realize something fascinating. Many of the decisions people believe are purely logical are actually guided by simple psychological triggers. Scarcity is just one of them, but it might be one of the most powerful. And when you start noticing it everywhere, you begin to understand something deeper about human behavior. We don't just want things because they are good. Sometimes we want them because they might disappear. And the possibility of losing something can be more motivating than the promise of gaining it. If this idea made you see everyday decisions in a new way, then you're already beginning to recognize the hidden psychological patterns shaping the world around you. And here on Mind Patrons, that's exactly what we explore together. The invisible forces that influence behavior, decisions, and the way the human mind works.